And that is Empire of the Sun there with Walking on a Dream. You are listening to The Popcorn Conspiracy, the show that takes a look at everything that's happening in the world of cinema and streaming. And right now, we are going to take a look at something that is on Netflix here in Australia. And it's an Australian film, and it is the reason that we just played Empire of the Sun. It is the brand new film called True Spirit. Now, for those of us old enough, you will remember the buzz that went around Australia when young adventurer Jessica Watson set out on her tiny little boat that I remember looks so small compared to the ones that we see in the Sydney to Hobart yacht race every year. And her mission was to become the youngest person to ever sail around the world. Now, this film, True Spirit, that is on Netflix right now, was directed by Sarah Spillane, and it looks at what happened around that time. It looks at not only the journey, but the stuff that was going around about Jessica and her family before she set sail as well. So, jumping into the studio right now on the Popcorn Conspiracy to tell us a little bit about True Spirit, we have Lee. Lee, hey, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, True Spirit, this is one of those films that was made during the pandemic, so it was kind of one of those films where a lot of people were expecting some great things from the film. What did you think of this great new Australian film?
I really enjoyed this film. I think too, knowing that it's a true story, based on a true story, rather than getting just a documentary and having it made into a proper film, where you really connect with the characters and the family and to, I guess, go on the journey with Jessica, or the person playing Jessica, was just a real pleasure. It is an amazing film, and I really highly recommend it. It's a brilliant Australian film.
Now, for everybody out there who's wondering who would they get to play young Jessica Watson, well, we've actually got Tegan Croft, the Aussie actress who's doing big things in Hollywood at the moment. Of course, if you're a DC fan, you would have seen her in Titans. Now, she plays Jessica Watson. Cliff Curtis, who's been making some brilliant films, a Kiwi actor who has been making some amazing films over the last few years. He plays Ben Bryant, who, of course, was her mentor and coach, who had an interesting backstory himself because he'd actually given up sailing due to the fact that on one fateful day he lost a crew member, and a lot of people seem to blame him for what actually happened. So he had an interesting backstory as well. Josh Lawson, of course, who we all know and love from Blue Heelers, and he's gone over to do Superstore in America. He plays Roger Watson, Jessica's dad, and Anna Paquin, who a lot of us grew up watching in a lot of movies over the years. She plays Julie Watson, Jessica's mum. Bringing together this cast is absolutely amazing. I mean, a few years ago here in Australia, if you'd been trying to get a movie off the ground like this, you would be kind of restricted to using Australian actors and actresses from television rather than big names. But they've really put together a great ensemble cast here. And I gotta say, Anna Paquin pulls off a pretty decent Aussie accent in this. There's been a few actresses over the years that have been tripped up by the Aussie actress, especially if you've ever watched Evil Angels, the movie about the Azaria Chamberlain disappearance. But Anna Paquin does an absolutely great job here. What did you think of those key members of the family and also, of course, the coach as well? What did you think of those performances?
No, they were really brilliant. It showed, I guess, the family relationships with the brilliant acting that they did. It showed, the parents supporting a young girl's dreams, the pressure the media put on them. I think that came through really well in their acting. It was, a terrible lot of pressure, actually. The strain of not knowing for as a mother and father, of not knowing if your daughter's safe, if they're hurt, or even at times, is she dead? I mean, their acting just showed that the anguish that they had to go through, the stress and the pressure. And I think they did a great job. I thought for the coach, so Cliff Curtis, he did a brilliant job in showing what it was like for him to coach and train someone and then have to let them go with the fear as well of, are they going to make it, because he'd lost a team member earlier, many years before, and had to put himself on the line, and the media frenzy that surrounded him. He really showed what it would have been like in the real life circumstance.
Yeah, well, some of those subplots I think that makes this film so special. I find quite often when they make these biographical films about an existing person that they sometimes avoid some of the things that might make that person look like they're in a bad light or bring up bad memories for them. But I really like the fact that one of the subplots for this film was the fact that there were journalists that went after the Watson family really, really savagely. We talk about that tall poppy syndrome here in Australia, where nobody goes after Australians like Australians, is a saying that they say a lot of the time. And we saw that with Jessica Watson. Instead of getting behind her when she was getting ready to go on this epic journey, we see in this film that there were journalists camping outside her parents' house. At one point, they were calling her parents the Bogan Pirates for taking this young girl and putting her on a boat in kind of dangerous situations. And with one of those subplots, we see here Todd Lazance, the Aussie actor, playing Craig Atherton, a journalist who at the start is one of those journalists who's sinking his boot in and suggesting almost that the parents are committing a form of abuse by allowing their daughter to do this. And his story during this film is quite interesting because he becomes quite concerned for her during some of the dangerous times on the boat. The film also explores the fact that there were people out there who were actually lobbying to Kevin Rudd, the Prime Minister at the time, to try and have a bill put through Parliament that was going to stop Jessica from ever getting on the boat. And I think for the casual viewer of the Jessica Watson story in the day, we probably wouldn't have known about those kinds of things that was happening behind the scenes because it was kept behind the scenes. The other thing I love about this film is we see what it was really like for her out on the boat. I mean, this is one of those films where it almost has that Titanic feeling to it, where you know how Titanic is going to end because you know what happens with the story. But here you see some of the things that Jessica Watson went through on that journey, the days and days of no wind, and she almost got like a version of cabin fever where she started to go a little bit crazy, but also some of the things that I'm pretty sure were kept out of the media at the time, some of the more dangerous situations that she found herself in are captured in this film. And we should pay credit too to Tegan Croft. She does an amazing job in this film. You would almost think normally with these kinds of films where she's playing the hero that she wouldn't have a very tough acting gig in front of her. But this film shows those darker emotions that Jessica Watson went through and just how tough it was. And Tegan Croft really, really comes out of this film looking brilliant as an actress with what she does. I love the scenes that she shares with Cliff Curtis. I've become a very, very big Cliff Curtis fan over the past couple of years with some of the films that he's been making, and he's just one of those actors that seems to be able to play any role that he's given, from big blockbuster films like Sunshine through to religious films like Risen. He was even in Training Day and films like that. He was in Avatar, for everyone that just went and saw the new Avatar. He's such an amazing actor. We've seen that in Maru, which was the New Zealand film that came out last year. And now in this, that he is just an absolutely amazing actor. And I think he steals the show sometimes in this film.
Yeah, I think so too. The other thing, as you were talking about, the character of Jessica and what she had to face when she was on the yacht and what we saw, I think some of the things that really stood out too was, not only the loneliness. I think having been through the COVID lockdowns ourselves, it felt a little bit like that at times where, she couldn't go anywhere and couldn't do anything. And with the wind ceasing for so long, what can you do? I love that she still had communication with her family at times because of, the communication stuff that she had. I mean, that was amazing, but still in her own head, she got stuck, I suppose. The other thing that they touch on is that she had dyslexia. Now, I didn't know that until I saw the film. That's something new that I learned, and the challenge that that posed for her in being able to sail, because of all the coordinates that she has to read and get right, and very crucial to keeping her safe, and strategies she was able to put in place to help herself, and she had support to do that. So I think that was really good to show that, because it just shows that if you have a challenge, that it can be overcome with the right supports. And I think it was a great storyline to have in there, and to really show that and not leave that out of the script. The other things that really stood out for me was the cinematography. You see beautiful pictures of whales and dolphins. The yacht obviously on the open sea, sunsets, and the storm scenes were terrific. And that was a blend of CGI and footage of real storms.
Yeah, and of course that cinematography was done by Danny Ruhlman, who has done a fair bit of work for Netflix over the years as well. And like you said, there's just some amazing shots in there of sunsets out over the ocean and things like that. And it's something that has really come through over the last couple of years here in Australia, just how talented our cinematographers are with productions like this. And as one of them said to me once, when I did an interview with a cinematographer, it's not hard to make Australia look beautiful on film. So they're given a good canvas to work with, but you still need that painter to bring that canvas to the screen. The other thing I wanted to touch on too that I thought worked so well was this film really showed what Jessica's parents went through while she was out on the boat as well. I think in real life, once Jessica was out on the ocean, all the focus was on her. But a lot of that focus went off Roger and Julie because they were so private and they didn't want to talk to the media, which we see in this film. This shows those times when they were getting bad news coming through, and they almost have to say to their young daughter, you have to make the decision. Like, they have to step back as parents and go, well, you're the captain of the boat. We would love to tell you what to do, but you've got to make that decision. And I think Anna Paquin and Josh Lawson did a great job with that.
Yeah, and I also think that her siblings, so played by Bridget Webb, Vivian Turner, and Stacey Clausen, did a brilliant job too. I mean, they really showed the dynamics of what it is to be positive, encouraging siblings, but also the trauma that they went through at times, not knowing if their sister had made it through a storm, or and waiting patiently but eagerly for news, and the excitement of any contact that they could have throughout the film with her, but also the encouragement they needed from her too for their everyday lives, and to still be a part of each other's lives when you're so far away but so isolated. It's a very different concept to being overseas, I think. Spending time with other people, having access to communication all the time. Being on a yacht is completely different. There are times when communication cuts out and you're by yourself and you're facing death by yourself. And for her siblings waiting on the other end, I think all the actors did a brilliant job in showing what it would have been like for those real siblings at the time that Jessica sailed in real life.
Now, the big question, what are you going to give True Spirit out of 5 here on the Popcorn Conspiracy?
Well, I actually am going to give it a full 5. I really enjoyed the film. I think the director did an amazing job. I think the writers, I think the cinematography was brilliant, and I think the actors did really well as well. So it is a movie that I have to say I've already watched again. Yeah. I enjoyed it so much. I am someone who loves the water. I love watching movies that have the open water, but also great acting as well, and a good storyline. And again, because it was a real life story made into a film, where we could connect with the character. It made me appreciate Jessica Watson so much more than I would have previously.
Yep, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I thought this was one of those Australian films that deserved to be in cinemas longer than it actually was. So thankful that it went straight to Netflix, because I think that's going to give a lot more people the opportunity to see it. So I'm going to give True Spirit 4 out of 5. And now on the program, we're going to take a listen to another track off the True Spirit soundtrack. We're going to take a listen to Geronimo by Shepherd.